Hello everybody, this is Kay, and welcome to my channel, Junking with Gigi. I have a fun little mini album project for you today, made out of one 12 by 12 piece of paper. It has pockets and a signature and an elastic closure, and it's just a really quick, easy, fun project to do using a 12 by 12 piece of paper. But before we get started on this project, I want to give credit to Alyssa. The name of her channel is Berry Little Paper Crafter, and that's who I got the original inspiration for this project from. I've kind of made it my own in that in hers she just made the album, but I have included a signature and the elastic closure, so I kind of took her idea and made it my own, which, as you know, that's what we do here on YouTube. When we watch other people's projects, we kind of adapt them and change them and make them our own, and that's okay. So without further ado, let's get started. I'll just show you real quick what this has. So the front cover has a pocket on the front and a pocket on the top, a side pocket, and then inside the front cover you have another pocket. And I've also included a little tuck spot here, which Alyssa didn't include in her video, so that's another little adaptation I made. And then I have a signature here. I think I used about 5 or 6 pieces of paper to make a little signature out of some tea-dyed paper. And the back cover also has the same thing, a pocket on the inside of the cover, a top side pocket, and then a bigger back pocket. And I've added tabs to these side items just to make it easier to pull them in and out of the pockets. And then I included an elastic closure, which you can see I have it secured down with another piece of ephemera on the back cover, and that just kind of wraps around to hold everything shut. I've had this paper pack for some time now, and I've got about 10 sheets left in it, and there's also some cut apart sheets. You can see I've used it. I've kind of been wanting to find a project like this to use up some of these papers, and my hope is to make up several of these little albums for craft fairs that I have coming up. So that was my goal, two goals, to make some stuff for my craft fairs, as well as using up this paper pack. I believe I got this on Amazon. I've had it a couple of years, so I don't know if it's still available, but the brand is Craft Consortium, and it's Vintage Emporium is the name of the paper pack. And these are double-sided sheets. I believe what Alyssa used was a single-sided sheet, so you can do that as well. Either one. And this is the page out of here that I've chosen to use for the project today. I picked this piece because it has no particular direction. Things are sideways, things are backwards, things are upside down. So that's one thing you need to pay attention to when you're working on this, is if you have a directional piece of paper, parts of it may end up upside down. And if that bothers you, then you might want to find a different piece of paper that isn't directional. If it doesn't bother you, then it doesn't bother you. So the first thing I'm going to do with my paper is cut it. And I'm going to grab my paper trimmer here, and I'm basically going to, let me open this up. I'm going to cut this into 3 3.5-inch strips, which will leave a 1.5-inch strip. Basically, I'm going to cut this up into, let me turn it over so I can have that as one of my 3.5-inch pieces. So this is what I'm thinking, is two of my 3.5-inch strips are going to be folded sort of like this. So I'm trying to decide what I want to be on the front cover, and this is the piece I think I'm going to use for that. So I'm going to set that piece aside, and then I'm going to take one of my other 3.5-inch pieces, and I'm just going to cut it in half lengthwise into 2 equal sizes, so basically at 6 inches. So I'm going to have 2 pieces that are 6 by 3.5. So here's what you end up with after you're done with your cuts, is 2 3.5 by 12-inch pieces, 2 3.5 by 6-inch pieces, and 1 1.5 by 12-inch strip. The next step we're going to do is our scoring, and these 2 pieces don't need to be scored, so I'm going to set those aside for now. I'll grab my scoreboard, and the scoring is simple. There's nothing difficult about this project at all. So I'm going to lay my scoreboard out here. First I'm going to take this 1.5-inch strip, and this is what's going to be my spine. And first of all, I'm going to just fold it in half this way. And actually, before I score this, I'm just going to glue this together so that it's making kind of a double layered 1.5 by 6-inch piece instead of 12. So I'm just going to take my glitter glue and glue this piece together. Let that dry for a couple minutes and go ahead and score these 2 strips. The scoring is so simple. We're just going to score each piece on the 12-inch side at 3 and 9. This little piece, which is going to be our spine, I'm going to score in half lengthwise. So I'm going to put it over here to the edge. Since it's 1.5, I'm going to score it at 3/4. And give it a good score too, because that's a double layer of the cardstock. So I'm going to fold this, which is our spine piece, in half this way along that score line. You can get a bone folder if you want to kind of make that a crisp fold. Or you can use the handle of your scissors or just use your fingers to score that nice and crisp. And then on these 2, we're going to fold. Now this is the one that I wanted to make this part my cover, so I'm going to make sure that's on top and fold it that direction. But we're just going to fold these on those score lines as well. So this piece is going to be my front cover. This piece is going to be my back cover. These 2 pieces are going to make those bigger inside the cover pockets. And this is my spine piece. So the next thing I want to do is put my notches for my pockets in. And I'm going to use, oops, threw it. I'm going to use this little tool, notching tool, to do that. So with this as my front cover, this is going to be a pocket and this is going to be a side pocket. So I'm going to punch it here, punch a knot, and I'm just going to eyeball this. I'm not going to measure anything and make it all complicated. So that'll be that pocket, and then I'm going to punch this piece on the side here for that little side pocket. And I'm going to do the same thing for the back piece, back cover piece. Bottom pocket and this side pocket. Okay. And then these 2 pieces, which are going to be on the inside of the front cover and then on the outside of the back cover, are going to have a notch right here. So I'm going to go ahead and punch a notch right here for that one. So that'll be on the inside, and actually you can do it, I haven't decided which one will be on the outside yet, but that's going to be that for the inside of the front cover. And then this one will be on the outside of the back cover. And so I'm going to punch a notch right here. And so that's ready to go there. And then our spine piece is ready. So let me get rid of these little punch pieces. And the next thing that we will do before we start gluing anything down, because this is the best time to do it, if you're an inker, is to do your inking. Because as you know, if you're going to ink the edge of a pocket, it's much easier to do it before you glue it down. So I'm going to take a few minutes and I'm going to go ahead and do all the inking that I need to do for this project while I've got it out. Got everything inked up, my next step is to glue everything together, kind of assemble it. So these two pieces make up my front cover, and I'm basically going to close up this top pocket by gluing it here and here, and this bottom pocket by just gluing it on these two sides. And then I'm going to glue this to the back of this just on these three sides. I'm using my art glitter glue today because it's got that precision tip, and the thinner line of glue you can do, the bigger your pocket is. So I'm gonna try and do just a thin line right along the edge for my pockets. Front cover, back cover assembled, and now we're going to attach them to the spine. So the way we do this is I'm going to attach the front cover first to, I'm going to hold the spine this way and I'm going to attach it like this, but I'm not going to take it all the way to the fold. And what that will do is leave it a little bit roomier inside for the signature that I'm going to sew in. So I'm going to just put glue along this edge and leave about a 1/4 inch between the edge of this and the fold of the spine. And it's going to go on the outside of the spine piece like so. Now the back cover piece I have to put on the inside of that spine piece. Otherwise, if I were to do it on the outside like I did the front, I'm going to be blocking part of this pocket. So I don't want to do that. So I'm going to glue it to the inside of the spine piece and match it up to, let's see, so I need to put glue on this edge, and I'm going to try and get it even with that front cover. There everything's all glued together. So this is the basic construction of the cover. And I've got my pocket here on the very front, and then another larger pocket on the inside of that front cover, and same thing on the back cover. Pocket here, a pocket here, and a pocket on the back here. So next step is to sew in my signature, and I've already prepared that. I found a nice big box of some linen type resume paper at a yard sale recently, and that's what I've cut down to use for my signature. I've got 8 pages. I used 4 pieces of 8.5 by 11, and I just cut them into 5.5 inch halves, and then I had to trim off just a little bit. Like, this is how much I had to trim off of the edge to make it. I had to trim it down to 7 inches basically, this way, to make it fit in this little mini folder with some space. So that's my signature, and what I'm going to use here is some waxed linen thread, and I'm going to get a length of it about 2.5 of the height. I always add a little more than 2.5. I want to be sure I have more than enough than not enough. And I'm going to go ahead and get that threaded onto my needle. Just have a kind of a big eye needle here that I can get this threaded through. Maybe. Okay. And so that's ready. And I have my little pokey tool here. And since this is such a simple little project with just one signature, I'm not going to make a template. I'm not going to measure or anything. I'm just going to hold it in place and get my pokey tool. Make sure it's all the way down in there. Get my pokey tool and just eyeball the middle. Poke my hole. And I'm going to go down to maybe a ½ inch or so from the, if you can see that, from the bottom of the signature, making sure my finger's out of the way on the other side. I don't want a hole in my finger. Go back to the middle. I do that just to make sure I'm all lined up still. And then another ½ inch or so from the top. Okay, and I'm just going to hold that all in place. And I'm going to grab my needle, and in case I didn't say this earlier or you haven't seen this before, this is called the 3-hole pamphlet stitch. So I'm going to start in this middle hole on the inside and go to the outside, and I'm going to leave a 2 to 3 inch tail on the inside. I'm not pulling it all the way through. And then I'm going to go to my top hole and go from the outside into the middle, and hopefully it'll all line up beautifully for me. There we go. Sometimes I get lucky and I hit it on the first go. Okay, pull that through. Want to make sure you don't pull this tail out, which with this thread being waxed, it's easy to do that because it kind of is sticky almost and holds it. But sometimes I use embroidery floss and it's a lot slippery. And very often I've just pulled it right through and had to start over, so I don't want to do that. So after that, you go down to the bottom hole, go back out to the outside, and this is where it gets a little tricky because you're going to come back in the middle hole from the outside, but you don't want to catch this string, and you kind of want to, so I kind of grab it and hold it out of the way with my other hand, and then I need a little bit more thread here, so I'm going to pull that down to the very end and go back in through that middle hole. When you pull it back through that middle hole, you want to bring your needle and thread on the opposite side of this middle string as your other one. You want to have one of these loose ends on either side of that middle one. Alright, so I've got that all threaded, and now I just want to make sure everything's nice and tight. So I'm going to pull up. So I always pull up on these strings too rather than out to the side, because you know this is paper and you could technically rip your paper if you pull a little too hard and you're pulling it out to the side. So I'm going to pull straight up. I'm going to flip this over and make sure it's nice and tight, and then tie this in a square knot, left over right, and then right over left, and trim it off. Sometimes this happens when I sew in my signatures, like it's just really, they're not creased really good and it's not staying closed. So one thing you can do, which I've started doing with a lot of my projects that have a signature, is just go through each page and kind of crease it down. And you can use your bone folder too, that helps. Your bone folder or your scissor handle, whatever you use for your crisp creases. So it's still popping open a little bit, but remember we're going to put an elastic closure on here. That'll hold it closed, and you can also set this under a stack of heavy books for a while. Sometimes that helps things flatten out a little. But my next step to do here is I like to put in a little tuck spot, just like I did on the other one. I'm going to put a little tuck spot on the inside of the front cover here of this pretty rose. This is one of the cutouts from that paper pack. So I'm just going to take my glue and put it along these two edges and make my little tuck spot. Knocking my glue bottle over. I'm just eyeballing it to kind of get it straight and centered. It doesn't have to be perfect. So that's my little tuck spot right there. And then we can decorate, and I've already got some things prepared here, sort of halfway prepared. So I have these two cards that I cut from some of that marble paper I have from Hobby Lobby. And I've cut those down to, let's see, this is 2 3/4 by 5 1/2. And I made one for the front. It's a little bit tight in my pocket here. Sometimes if I get my bone folder and just kind of do this, it like loosens the pocket a little. I don't know if that's a very good way to describe that. I made one of those for that, and I'm going to decorate it some too. And I've also made one for inside this back cover pocket. I have these two little cards with a floral sticker for these two side pockets, back and front. And then I cut out two of the, one is like a postcard image from that paper pack of cutouts, and this is some type of a vintage receipt image, and those are going to pop right into these larger side pockets. But what I want to do with those, since they can go all the way in there and kind of get lost, is I made a couple of tabs for them. This was a whale tail punch that I had a scrap of that scrapbook paper left, and then this is just another piece of that marble paper. So I'm going to put a tab on each one of these, and I kind of want them to be spaced out. So I'm going to put one kind of in the middle and then one closer to the bottom, so we've got, you know, layers of tabs. That I like that look, having them kind of staggered along the edge rather than having all the tabs be in the same spot. You'll see what I mean once I get this put down. So I'm going to take this scrap one, and I'm just going to put it, let me see here. this is going to be in the back pocket, so I kind of want to see where I need to put the tab so it doesn't stick out too far, if you know what I mean. So if I put it about like that, yeah, okay, so I'm going to kind of hold that in place there, but I'm going to get it straight. You do have a little bit of wiggle time with this art glitter glue, not much, so I'm gonna, all right, I'm just gonna do the best I can here to get it kind of even. Okay, I got those on there. Sometimes I feel like I make things more difficult than they have to be. But anyway, so I've got something in all of the pockets now, except for my tuck spot. I have to come up with something for that. And I need to decorate these cards. And I have to put on the closure. So that's what we're gonna do next, is add that closure, that elastic closure. This is what I'm going to use for the closure, what I used on my other one, and it's just a little pack of stretch cord that I picked up from Walmart. I'm just going to use this thinner of the clears, and I'm going to take off enough of it to go all the way around and leave me a little extra for tying. So about right there. Okay. And then I'm just going to kind of put it on here and figure out about where I need to tie it. So I'm going to put my two ends together. I want it to be snug enough to hold the booklet, oops, the booklet closed, but loose enough so that there's still room if more stuff is added for it to expand a little. So I'm going to kind of hold it and pinch down to about where I need to tie it, which is at this point on my cords. That got a little bit fiddly, but I figured it out. So I do one overhand knot, and I'm gonna kind of pull it, but not super tight, because what I want to do before I pull it super tight is make sure that it's snug enough, but not too snug, because now that I have it on there, I can see that it's a little bit tighter than I'd want. So if I pull on these ends, not the loose ends, but the other ends a little bit this way, it loosens it up a little. So there we have our closure, but I want my knot in the back. So I'm going to turn it around. And I'm just going to kind of slide it to where that knot is kind of in the middle there. And the way I did my other one is I took some washi tape pieces, which I already have here. This is just some washi tape that I don't really care for, and I'm just going to kind of hold those. It's hard to do this because this is clear and I can hardly see it, and I'm sure you can barely see it too. So I'm just going to pull those loose ends straight along with the other part of the stretch cord and hold them in place on the ends while I get this knot part secured down. So I just have a little piece of washi tape there, and I'm going to pull this one out on this side and put a little piece of washi tape there just to hold those out of the way. And then what I've done is this is from the cutout page, one of the cutout pages from that paper pack. It's a little ticket of sorts, and I just cut it out and inked it. And I am going to glue this right over that stretch cord knot. And I'm actually just going to put glue all over this, so it's going to secure it down real thoroughly. It's coming out here. Hang on a second. I'm going to trim these off later, but for now, I just want them to kind of be held out of the way. My washi tape isn't doing the trick on this one. Let me see if I can secure it a little better. It wasn't this fiddly with the first one that I made. Of course, I'm trying to make a video, so it's going to give me a little bit more trouble. Okay, anyway, so I'm going to get that ticket piece and put glue all over the back of it. And I'm being pretty generous with the glue. I probably don't have to. I do use a lot of glue. I have this unreasonable fear that if I don't use a ton of glue, everything's going to fall apart. So I know I need to get past that. But anyway, so I got glue all over the back of that. I'm going to put it right over this knot and these loose ends and just kind of center it with my pocket notch there so it looks, you know, fairly even. And just press that down real good. Let that glue set for a minute or so. Remove my washi tape. And trim off that loose end as close as I can to the, if I can get it in my fingers, to the ticket. So I'm going to trim it off right there. I'm going to grab a smaller pair of scissors for this and just trim it off as close as I can get it to that ticket, and then it won't show. And the same thing on this piece. Our little mini album is finished, except for, and as you can see when you remove the closure, you know, it still holds it back here so it doesn't get lost. I mean, if this were a free piece, not adhered down like this, I would think it'd be easy to lose that. So that's why I decided to go ahead and adhere it to the mini journal so it wouldn't get lost. But it is complete, except for I do have to find something to tuck into that tuck spot. And I do have to, I'm going to decorate these two cards up a little bit. And on the first one that I did, I cut out one of those little images from the paper pack and put it there. And I can do that here, but I kind of like the way this looks. So that's optional. And of course, any other decorating that you want to do is up to you on these little pocket journals. But I just thought that was such a quick, easy, and fun little project that I would share it with you today. And that is all I have for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed this project. I hope you get a little bit of inspiration from it and want to make some of these yourselves and put your own little twist on it, just like I've put mine. I wish you a very blessed day. Thank you for watching.